What's up guys, Deceiver here with another Wolcen video. Today we have the Death Knight. Now this is a theme build based off World of Warcraft's Death Knight. So I'm going to preface this video by saying yes, this build can play much better with a lot of different tweaks, but I wanted to keep it on theme specifically for this build. It does decent damage, it does have decent survivability, but it can be improved quite a bit by not running some of the things that I'm running. So before you go in the comment section saying the build sucks, it's meant to stay on theme. Yes, it still will run about 120, probably up to like 150 as is, and it can be improved for 186 as well. Also, a few other notes: the build is pretty slow when it comes to going through dungeons because you don't have any mobility skills. However, you can change out some of the skills, or one of the skills, for a mobility skill if you'd like. Other than that, I think that's pretty much all I want to say before getting into the build, so let's go ahead and look at the stats. First thing, since it's quick, we are going mostly into toughness, and I have a little bit into ferocity to bring my crit chance up to where it needs to be. So you mostly want to go in toughness because it gives you the most amount of damage. Everybody knows that by now. And enough ferocity to have your crit chance high enough to where it needs to be. Let's go ahead and go over the Gate of Fates real quick. I'll show you some of the specific nodes that I took in order to get the build working. So we'll start up at the top. You're going to be freezing enemies with certain abilities, so 25% damage to enemies that have impaired movement is good. You also have stasis on one of your abilities as well, so this node improves your damage a decent amount. Also, it gives you an extra amount to freeze with frost damage, so that's good for our build as well. Then I took Warmonger, that gives you plus 2% damage per unconsumed rage points. That's pretty good as well. And then we've got the Feast of Crows. We needed some life leech to be able to stay alive. We've got Dire Juncture because everybody knows it's so good now, and I use it on pretty much most of my builds, along with Which Time Cannot Heal, which I also use on most of my builds nowadays too. That's another thing. I really wish they would revamp some of the skill trees in the Gate of Fates, because some of them just aren't used much anymore. No one even uses Armsmeister anymore. No one uses White Arrow. Abyssal Shaper is used very infrequently. Eos is used sometimes for specific nodes, but not much. Duskglaive is not used like at all in any build I don't think I've seen, which is a shame because it's the most interesting node in my opinion. And then like Plaguebringer's used in very niche builds. But other than that, like Alistair's never used either. Like, I hope they revamp some of these things to make them stronger and on par with some of the other nodes. But anyway, so we're using a lot of the Cabalist tree. Recently figured out that, pretty much everybody's figured out that the Cabalist tree is just super strong. I used it in my Assassin build, and I'm continuing to use it in this build, because even though this is somewhat of a crit build, it's just super strong. Ailments in general are just really good, so we're taking Power of the First Men, Immortal Offering, Grievous Afflictions, Insidious Decay, and Primordial Insights. You could get rid of Insidious Decay if you wanted to. I probably should, to be honest, but that's okay. Child of Fury, of course, we're getting this for the Rage and Willpower, and then Merciless Lethality for the higher crit damage. Wild Card for crit chance, Attrition Strategist for ailment chance. We're taking the Assassin for bosses, or not the Assassin, Clandestine Execution for bosses. Then we're taking Sacred Oath, of course, in our basic defense setup here for block chance, and Siege Breaker. We're wearing heavy armor for the most part. Okay, let's go through the skills. So I'm using Tracker's Reach to apply stasis. This is pretty much the only modifier that you absolutely need, other than one of the damage nodes to actually give it some damage to apply bleed. Pulls enemies in all directions. You probably want to take this. The other ones, like I said, are optional. Sovereign Shout is our flex spot. You could replace Sovereign Shout with like Warpath or what the fuck is that other thing? The jump move, Wings of Ishmir, I think it is. Where is it? There it is, Wings of Ishmir. You could take that instead, but I'm using Sovereign Shout for the buffs. Gives some buff to all resist, health globe generation, weakness, increased duration, crit buff. Yeah, Sovereign Shout's just really good. Temporary life leech, so that stacks on top of our life leech that we already have. So Sovereign Shout's nice. Plague Burst, to go on theme with our Death Knight, we want to have Toxic, Rend, and Frost. So this is our source of toxic damage, on top of some toxic damage built into our gear as well. So you need to increase the area effect, and you need to leave Poisonous Clouds. Chance to inflict ailments on enemies for allies inside of the explosion area. Crit damage, chance for explosions to frenzy enemies, which is pretty nice because it's kind of like a CC. And increased ailment chance score. And then we've got Blood for Blood, which is our other AoE. I'm actually pretty impressed. Oh, I've actually got 2 skills. I was leveling this up. What do I want to put this in? Leech's health remnant? No. Chance to frenzy? No. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll figure that out later. But increase the damage on enemies suffering from damage over time. Obviously, we're applying ailments, so this is good. Increase health generation on yourself. That's good for survivability. Increase resource generation. That's good as well because we're constantly using our rage spender. The damage effect area follows the target. You definitely want this. Increases the chance to inflict ailments on enemies while inside the area of effect. This is great considering we're not built into wisdom. This helps apply our ailments quicker. Increases the duration and chance that enemies will explode if they're damaged with less than 10% health. Whew, I'm going at a pace today. Alright, Tier of Ethereal. I still don't think anybody's been able to pronounce this correctly, including myself, so we actually didn't change it to the fire modifier, which, to be honest, the fire modifier is just better because technically frost damage does not count as an ailment and fire does. So that's why I say this build can be played better, but to keep it on theme, I'm keeping it frost, and it's actually pretty useful because this ability is mostly used on bosses, and it breaks them extremely quickly by dealing frost damage, because if you guys didn't know, breaking the boss is caused by doing CC's abilities on the boss. So since we're applying freeze on the boss constantly, if we're spamming this after using up our rage, then it breaks them pretty quickly, which is pretty nice actually. But otherwise, if you want to play like this type of build optimally, you should take the fire damage. It's just better. Reduce the willpower cost, reduce the cooldown, increase the crit chance, alter the skill so it does damage over time, increase area of effect, increase critical damage, and reduce cooldown. And then our last ability, which is our main damaging ability, Blade Storm. So the reason I initially took this is because it's the only warrior ability that does frost damage, but I ended up taking it off there anyway because I have frost damage applied to my attacks, so it ends up doing frost damage anyway. So yeah, so increase rage generation, you really don't need this. The skill itself actually seems to generate rage as it is, or maybe it's my gear, but I'm not sure. You can take this if you need to, and chance to inflict ailments, reduce the rage cost if you want it. I don't have it. This one is definitely, you have to have this one to make this build work. Can be held to prolong the duration of the skill. This is what makes you keep spinning. Increase damage per each ailment an enemy has. Increases the tick rate upon afflicting critical hit. Increases the critical chance when an enemy is killed with Blade Storm, and increase the critical damage. So those are the modifiers that you're going to want to use with Blade Storm. Now, like I said, can be much better of a build, but wanted to stay on theme. To be honest, I am not going to be playing, trying to improve this build, and I don't think I'll be returning to this build later on either. The main reason that I did it now is because it was the most voted for build that you guys wanted to see, so I figured I would make the template of it, and I'll leave it up to you guys to improve the build, as I do think it is strong and can be extremely strong for endgame if the gear is improved. Because what I did, I ended up picking, taking some of the gear that I already had in my stash and just throwing it on. I did try and make it as strong as possible with the stats that I would want. You want as much all resist as possible. You need a heavy helm, heavy chest. You want health in your body pieces. You want transfer time decrease in your accessories. I tried out putting rend damage in one of them, but I still think it's probably better to put another transfer time decrease in this as well. Another thing you want is rend damage, crit chance on your weapon. I don't have that on this weapon. Material damage is good on pretty much anything. You're going to want toughness and ferocity across the board, and on your catalyst you just want to add some kind of damage to spells that you don't already have on here, because even though yes this is a theme build, you're not gonna really see the burn or the lightning going off too often, but it is gonna increase your immortal offering damage. So having many types of ailments is gonna benefit you, so you're definitely gonna want that. So here this ring adds frost damage to my attacks, so it makes my blade spin able to freeze enemies, which is nice. So yeah, material damage, good. If you're lacking on all resist like I was, I put some all resist gems into my catalyst and increase the crit score as well in my catalyst. This catalyst is kind of shitty. It's level 67. It's not that great. Like I said, this build can be improved upon, but I'm not going to do it because it's not personally my playstyle. It's probably going to be a while before I make another warrior type build, and when I do, it's not going to be based around like one or two moves like this one is. If I make another warrior build, it's going to use the charge and the hammers and all that kind of shit. But I think it's going to be a while before I make a warrior build. I might try and make like a mage build, because I don't think I've made like a pure mage type build yet, and I think that's what I want to do next. Either that, or I'm going to make the rainbow or shadow assassin. So I think that's where I'm gonna start. To be honest, since playing this build, it's not my playstyle, so I haven't been playing too much because I just don't like playing with Whirlwind builds. But I know there is people that do like playing Whirlwind, so here's the build for you. And if you like World of Warcraft or used to play World of Warcraft and you want to be a Death Knight, this is probably the way to go. You could use a different raid spender if you wanted to. You can tweak the build in many different ways. But yeah, I figured I'd give you guys the template for it and how I built it. Yeah, so that is the Death Knight build. And I'll see you guys in the next video. And like I said, I don't know which build it's going to be yet, so I'm going to be tinkering around with it and seeing what kind of gear I already have. And yeah, that'll be it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.